Episode 1, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. What did you think?
Well, we've heard your commentary.
Yeah, I
For
did the
those
full
that-
run. I did the full run through.
I know. And what's remarkable is that you managed to watch it a second time without stopping.
I know. I was thinking that. I was actually thinking when I was watching this episode, am I going to like it more than the first time? Because I hated it the first time, if I'm honest.
Okay.
I'll tell you why later.
Fair
But
enough.
I'm interested to know what your thoughts are.
My thoughts. I had high expectations, honestly. When you think about She-Hulk, and you think about what Disney have done, and they're trying to sort of really promote themselves as a great streaming platform, and they do have a phenomenal catalogue. You know, when you actually think about over the last 50 odd years. But man, I think they mess up. I mean, I genuinely think they do mess up. So, one of the things that I didn't like about it, from my expectations, I thought, you know what, Hulk, wham, bam, Superman, or Superwoman in this case. And there was none of that.
I'm going to pull you up on the expectations things first. So, because I had low expectations going into this.
That's because you probably watched the YouTube trailers.
I watched
and all
the
rest of it,
trailer.
and they were terrible.
So the trailer was terrible.
Yeah, they were absolutely awful.
And also, I know Marvel's done these TV series before, but there have been a number of TV series where I wasn't completely thrilled by what they did. Especially Loki, if I'm honest.
Yeah, but if you think about those things like Kenobi or Loki or any of them, in some respects, they're not particularly simple stories. She-Hulk is literally the female version of Thing, isn't it? Basically, you're going to hit somebody. It's going to be strength. It's going to be, leap 1,000 miles or whatever. How can it?
No, but
how can it be so?
They're trying to do the whole, the duality of being a human and then being a Hulk, aren't they? But the difficulty I think they're finding, we'll talk about this a little bit more, is that, episode 1 is basically her origin story. So we haven't really seen...
Which I had a real problem with. Honestly.
Yeah, we haven't really seen the human part of her. So the first episode, watching through it, she basically you see her and she goes, "Hi, I'm She-Hulk." And then she goes, "Hi, I'm Jennifer and I'm also She-Hulk." And then she goes, "Look at my origin story." And then we spend 30 minutes looking at her origin story. Right?
Well, first of all, can I just put one thing? It's one thing I completely forgot, sorry. These episodes, when you look at Disney's, when you get Disney Plus and you look at the length of the episodes, it's like 37 minutes. They have about 7 minutes of bloody credits. I think they should be honestly saying there's only 28 minutes. Stop trying to pretend.
I think the Disney episode, it's listed at around 38 minutes, at which the actual episode stops at 30 minutes and starts at 1 minute. So it's actually a 29-minute episode.
I think the following episode stopped even earlier. So I feel cheated. Okay, so that's the first thing. And secondly, I agree that it's a bit of a weird start. And they're trying to do a Deadpool thing of trying to talk to the audience and all that kind of stuff. But Deadpool, whether you like it or not, it was always after a really funny action sequence. Or it was about to become a really funny action sequence. It wasn't like...
Yeah,
here's a continuation of a story.
I'll give them a little bit of props for the fourth wall stuff, and only because historically She-Hulk was breaking the fourth wall before Deadpool.
Okay,
So,
I
in the comics-
accept that.
so
I've never
people
read it
don't
in the
know-
comics.
yeah,
I couldn't
so-
be bothered.
So She-Hulk was breaking the fourth wall even in the comics, and it was before Deadpool. The question is, with all these things is, someone will always say what I just said, which is, oh, She-Hulk used to break the fourth wall, and therefore she's got license to break the fourth wall again.
Agreed. I have no problem with that.
The issue is, are they doing it effectively?
Just for the sake of it. They're just doing it for the sake of it.
Deadpool in the films does it effectively because you feel something for that character and you understand where he's coming from, and also when he makes a joke, it is actually funny.
Yeah.
With her, they've used it more as a look at this about myself that I'm not going to just tell you out of my mouth, and they're using it more like a throwback. So in the first, so far anyway. So in the first episode, she's just like, "I'm She-Hulk. This is how it happened," and then there's the throwback. and then we talk about let's talk about how it happened.
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk about how it happened.
All right.
So let's
Can
start.
can I say something?
Yeah.
I'll start if you don't mind.
Okay.
I have to start because this bugs me. It bugs me. They're going along in a car. We'll talk about what they're talking about in the car. But out of the blue, a UFO appears. An unidentified flying object proving aliens exist appears. And it's not talked about in the whole episode.
No, it is. It is.
He's not talking about
It is.
Listen,
And they
she
know
goes and
aliens
sees her
exist.
parents and all this sort of
No, they know
They don't-
aliens exist.
Yeah, but
Of course they do.
it turned up in front of her. And it's not even talked about.
It is. It is. It is.
Where is it talked
But
about?
remember, this is I don't mind
I'm
that
talking
because
about-
the world building has already been done for that in the Marvel universe. So
Yeah, but this is pathetic.
This is a world where every human on the planet knows that aliens exist.
Yeah, but how many
And
have actually
she has
have had a car and their car and
She
they
has
crash
an
into
alien
one?
sitting next to her in the car.
It's not an alien.
He's basically an alien.
He's not an alien.
Isn't he? She knows
She's
all
his
that stuff
cousin.
exists.
Yeah.
She knows all that stuff exists. Yeah, that's not something that is affecting me. What I'm thinking is, we'll delve a little bit deeper into this. So, first let's talk about what they're talking about in the car.
I think it's
Okay.
Oh God, Captain America.
The fact that God knows how many years after Captain America has suddenly sacrificed his life
No.
for the whole of humanity,
And all
and the
she can
one thing
think
that she
about-
could talk about is whether he has lost his virginity during his time that he was alive, is absolutely ridiculous.
I don't even understand.
I mean, this is just like, I don't know what writers they've got on this show. I don't know why.
I think it shows that the people who wrote this show are actually not part of my world.
That was approved by a team that represents a multi-billion-dollar organization.
I know. And it's been signed off by all the top bods. It's representative of what Disney wants. And you're sitting there going,
Yeah.
really?
And in that car, they told us more about Captain America's origin story than they did tell us in this episode about her origin story.
I didn't realise
They
that.
tell
I think
she
you're
talks
right.
about his origin story in that
Yeah,
car.
yeah, she
and
does.
there's more depth in that origin story than there is in this entire episode about how she was built.
That's sad.
So then, okay, so that happens.
That is sad.
That happens. Then, just as she's joking about Captain America being a virgin, the spaceship.
Well, she's
the spaceship
assuming he's
drops-
a virgin, and
Yeah.
I don't even know what. It's just pathetic.
So then the spaceship comes out of nowhere, ends up in front of their car. They swerve out of the way. The car falls over.
Yeah.
Rolls down this hill. She jumps out of the car.
Did she jump out of the car? I thought she got out of the car.
She comes out of the car. She comes out of the car. She comes to the other side of the car. Bruce is stuck in the car. She opens the door.
Okay.
Right? And just a small distinction, but as a human, when you try and open a door, you pull the door handle.
Yeah.
Yeah? She basically ripped the door off.
Oh God.
She-
I didn't know this.
Anyway, so she opens his door. She undoes Bruce's seatbelt. Right?
Yeah.
So Bruce falls down. She drags Bruce out of the car.
Who is a lot bigger
A lot,
than her.
lot heavier than her.
Yeah.
Bruce is bleeding.
Yeah.
She's bleeding. She's got a cut on her arm.
Yeah.
Bruce's blood drops on her cut,
Yeah.
and that is her origin story.
You know what? I must admit, when I saw that, I didn't know the origin story of She-Hulk, and I thought that was a really pathetic origin story because I must admit, because I was getting bored with this episode,
we're only 5 minutes in.
I thought, you know what? Why couldn't her blood drop on him and he become a woman, or he suddenly loses his powers or whatever? You know, if it works one way, why can't it work the other way?
If she's just a Bond or human though, until she becomes She-Hulk,
Yeah,
But then actually, he does do that later. He does later in the episode. He says that I used your blood to cure my cut arm.
really, he says that.
He said that.
Oh, I didn't realise.
He said that later in the episode.
I think.
And the other thing that they've addressed in
have
one
we
line.
watched the same episode? Because I've
We
now
watched
said
the
I
same
didn't
episode.
realise about
See,
3 times.
This is the thing. No, this is the
Is
thing.
that how boring it was
If-
for the first time I saw it?
I'm
that I
telling you, the
couldn't follow
first time I
story?
didn't realise any of this stuff because I was so bored. But when you watch it the second time and you listen to the little lines, what the writers have done is they want to skip through issues. So they're given a one-liner to explain away a huge issue,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So there's a huge issue that we both brought up in this, which is the spaceship.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I still see that as an issue, and I'll tell you why I see that as an
I
issue.
thought they would have spent the whole episode trying to figure out what the
the
hell
hell's going
spaceship
on? I know.
was, why someone's come after them,
And-
why everything's happened. Do you know how they explain this away in the whole episode? There's an episode with them in the lab, in Bruce's lab
Yeah.
in his place in Mexico. God
This
knows
is,
how
this
they
is in
ended
that,
up
yeah,
there.
yeah. I saw that part. Yeah, obviously. I read through
He
that.
says it's a courier, and he was trying to deliver a message, and I don't know what happened. There was no malice from that ship towards him.
Well, I must admit, one of the things that was coming through in the trailers. So I did see some of the trailers, and there was a big thing about. I don't know. It's almost like trying to make Disney are into this thing of trying to make everything an extension of the Me Too movement or something that is empowering women, or which is it's good to empower women, but
Yeah.
something to somehow elevate them to godlike status.
I'll tell you what I'll do.
Hold on 1 second. So there's this whole thing that's the background to some of this stuff, which I think most people take with a pinch of salt, to be honest. But you can't just make it Me Too means only talk about me. And this is the problem I found with that first episode. There were lots of things going on that became irrelevant, that you might want to know about. For instance, the UFO. To be honest, to have an episode where a UFO is right at the beginning and then that's it is bizarre. It's bizarre. That's basically saying, let's talk about me. A UFO happens all the time. Why bother? It's just bizarre. And then there's this whole thing that happens later on. Even when she's in that, I don't know. I must admit, it was she's in those public tours. I'm assuming it's at some sort of club or bar or whatever. And out of the blue, these people help her out, which is nice. But I've never seen that happen quite. It might be her. How people give away their jackets away just like that is I've not really seen much of that. But didn't she beat a guy up or really have a go at these? And it's like no repercussions. So it would have been nice to have a joke at the end of it where
talk about
a green guy beat me up and the police having a go at us. What do you mean a green guy?
We'll talk about this in a second. So let's talk about the origin story first, because that is one thing I'm saying. So do you know the original origin story?
No, I don't.
So the original origin story from the She-Hulk comics is that Jennifer Walters, it's Jennifer Walters, isn't it? Yeah.
Something like
Jennifer
that, yeah.
Walters, she is Bruce's cousin.
Yeah.
And she gets shot by the mob.
Oh, right? Okay.
And in desperation to save her life, with no other medical, things around that Bruce can use to save her, he gives her a blood transfusion of his own blood.
That's a bloody good origin story.
Right? So he
I think that's an excellent origin story.
Exactly. So in that origin story...
And it links it to being an attorney. I mean, it links into so many things.
It doesn't necessarily link her... I mean, it can link it to a story, to her attorney if she's involved in the case. Or
Exactly.
Boss shoots her. I think that is a far more compelling story. And the reason is because it's so character building and it's so telling of the relationship between what Bruce and Jennifer would be.
Agreed.
Whereas in this episode, I think one thing that the writers have struggled to do is build the characters. So they tell us what's happened, but we're not learning anything about the characters. I don't know what her life was like before the snap. I don't know what happened during those years after the snap happened.
The snap being when everybody disappeared and came back.
Yeah, when
5 years
Thanos
later.
snapped everyone away. This is the thing, is like Marvel's done this a lot where they claim to have built this amazing world, and they've been building the world in each of their films, but they keep losing sight of the fact that they've already built a lot of the world when they do the next project.
Yeah.
So now
I have a theory about
But
this
now
one.
we've got a series where you're introducing a new character. She's a 30-year-old single lawyer, right? She's been there from phase 1 all the way to phase 4. Yeah.
Technically, yes.
Yeah, she's been there. She's 30 years old, so she's been there for all that time. Yeah. That sector of humanity has been through so much stuff that we've never been through, but they were using her like just a random person in our world today, right?
Agreed.
And you would think that she would have some level of character development as an attorney who has been through a snap, has had to go through education, whatever it is literally a relative of the Hulk.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
That she would have some level of understanding of what's going on in this world, or some level of groundedness about what it means to have powers. All these
She
sorts of
should
things.
actually have greater resonance with what they've been through, because the Hulk and the Avengers saved the universe. So therefore, they had to put themselves online. They saw their
I mean,
friends die.
if my cousin saved the universe, I would feel some way about it, you know?
Yeah.
Whether I hate them for being distant or I love them for being a hero, there's something about that relationship that should probably be explored. And the thing is, in this episode, I know they're trying to do the origin story in the first episode, but I kind of felt that it was so rushed, and, you know, they've got opportunity to just space it out.
I agree, except for one little thing.
You know what? Do an episode where she's not even She-Hulk.
Yeah, I think
Do
that's...
an episode where you
yeah.
just learn about who she is. She meets Bruce at the end of the episode, and then maybe if you want to do the spaceship thing, that can happen at the end of the episode.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Rather than be like, here I am practicing a speech, I'm She-Hulk. By the way, here's a 20-minute throwback to how I became She-Hulk. And at the end of the
that's so
episode, you'll
sad.
see me turn into She-Hulk again.
I know, it's pathetic.
And
But
you know, this is another thing, and we're gonna come on to this whole this thing that you're talking about female empowerment and all this. You know, the message they're trying to send. But the origin story, the original origin story was far more compelling.
it's a better origin story.
Disney could have easily done that. The idea that you can't put this episode out because we're not allowed to show people being shot. You're literally showing
You're killing people
women
all over.
punching other women through walls, this and that. Women trying to be stabbed by men. Like the idea that you can't show a gunshot is ridiculous.
I know.
Right?
But
the idea that you can't show someone desperate to save their loved one and give them a transfusion of their own blood is ridiculous.
It is. It is ridiculous. But but I have a theory. I do have a theory. I think Mark Ruffalo, who plays Hulk, saw the script and said, I don't want to be a part of this stuff. Because he's a serious actor. And I think, I can just imagine him sitting there going, I'll price my way out of this.
I must make myself too expensive.
I'll price my way out of this. They've only got so much budget, which is probably a huge budget, but I'll price my way out of this. And I'll be there at the beginning and the very end. And I think that's what's going to happen.
I don't know about that. I think they probably would have just paid him the money for it because they're trying to get this off. They're trying to get this show off, you know. But I think I just felt like there wasn't enough character building moments, and I felt if you're going to spend 20 minutes, if you're going to spend 20 minutes of her being with Mark Ruffalo, the Hulk. So if you're going to spend 20 minutes of She-Hulk and Hulk together. I felt like I would have just thought there'd be some sort of bond between them at the end.
I mean, they did develop a bit of a bond, but you could argue it was already...
shared understanding. Not just understanding, but shared understanding.
Yeah.
And one of the big points for me throughout this whole episode, watching it, was she's never wrong about anything. She's never wrong about anything. Yeah. She says what is her way, and he just has to accept it. She says... And some of the reasons she gives, but we'll get into that, but... You know, she says stuff like, I can control my emotions. And we just have to accept it.
Oh, that really wound me up.
And God, the reasoning that she gave. Because I've been catcalled in the past. And because so many men are mansplaining stuff to me. Like, so are you telling me that the reason that Mark Ruffalo is having difficulty, as Bruce Banner is having difficulty dealing with the Hulk inside him, is because women haven't catcalled him, and because women haven't tried to explain issues with him, and as a result, he's not trying to manage his emotions.
I sat
the
there.
idea that the stuff that he's been through, and he says it. He literally says it in the episode. He's like, it took me 15 years to get to a point where I could just be Professor Hulk, let alone turn from one to the other.
Exactly.
Just because she's been catcalled and had mansplaining in the past. She's saying, like, I've been managing my emotions my whole life. She can instantly turn from Jennifer Walters to She-Hulk at will. She doesn't even change voice. She doesn't
can
have
hide.
Any alter ego.
She can go back to normal. One of the things I've got so many, but one of the things that did get to me, and I don't know, maybe it only gets to men. Maybe it only gets to a certain type of man. I don't know. But when he was trying to explain to her that... you got to be calm and you got to be able to handle anger and handle these sort of things. And she started talking about, I've been dealing with these things because people catcalled me and so on. My immediate thought was, Mark Ruffalo, or the Hulk, Bruce Banner, lost the love of his life because he effectively turned into a monster and has to live with that. And I don't quite see the comparison between that and someone whistling or calling you something. That is not the same thing. It's not even in the same realm of scale. You know,
Exactly, yeah.
and I don't even understand how anyone who's writing can think that's okay to do that as a comparison, and it does make you wonder. People who write this stuff, what world do they live in?
Yeah.
Generally,
But they also
what
just
world do they
contradict
live
themselves in the episode. Like they say, so basically, let's just quickly run through what happened. So Bruce Banner, he basically goes, "Oh my God, my cousin is now She-Hulk. What am I going to do?" And he's been relatively forward-thinking. He's got a folder where he's documented everything that he's done in the last 15 years of how he's tried to solve this issue of duality between the Hulk and himself. What's worked, what hasn't worked. He's literally presented it with this folder of all the stuff that he's done. He said it's really important. I've got life experience. I've been to different planets and spent 2 years as the Hulk. I've like fought all these people. I've done all these things. I've got evidence-based practice, which I actually believe in, which is a yoga style thing, mindfulness, which I'm using to help myself. And she says, nope, I've been through a hard life as a human woman, and therefore I can solve all these issues. I've actually already solved all these issues, and I could take on this burden of being a She-Hulk and nothing will faze me. At the same time, while they're there, he blows an air horn at her and she turns instantly into She-Hulk. You know, what the hell? You know, and like I get like they do things that will make people happy. Like he goes, look, you know, spandex is your best friend because it's elastic and stretchy. But then they don't follow that rule in the episode. So it doesn't matter what happens with her kapre, like her clothes.
Her clothes.
So her clothes just expand and contract to whatever she needs, which is fine, you know, it's a Disney show. But the point is you can't play that joke and then that joke doesn't apply throughout the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know people have the spandex thing, but just don't make that joke. We're all happy to accept the fact that you're not going to just suddenly have a woman with like all the clothes ripping off her every 5 seconds. It doesn't make sense. But you don't make the spandex joke and then do that thing.
You know the saddest thing of all this? You've summed up the whole episode in about 3 sentences. Turns out She-Hulk, he wants to help her, she rejects his help, she goes away.
Yeah, and he accepts it. That's the worst part.
Well, he can't really do much about it.
He gives her all this evidence. He gives her all this evidence. They fight for 2 seconds, and he goes, "Oh well, you know, we've now gained mutual understanding through our fighting and destruction of my bar that I put with Tony, and now go off into the world and be She-Hulk."
We agree to disagree.
Good luck
friends.
with it. Yeah, good luck with that, and I'm here for you if you need me.
There's one thing that I do find, and I don't want to. I do find this. Again, it's so bizarre. I don't know why it is that they try to elevate people to be almost like godlike. You know, when they're doing the exercises and they're doing the yoga and all that sort of stuff, and he's basically trying to show her how to do exercise, and he becomes almost like a ballerina in terms of what she does, and she can do everything. And it's like
The Force Awakens.
The
Force awakened in her. She channeled Rey.
I would have liked the actress to try to do that on her own, rather than a blooming animator doing a cartoon Scooby-Doo version of all this
She channeled
stuff.
Rey from Star Wars.
It's just
All that happened there was, and I think this is a big problem, is that there's no problem in saying that she will be less good than the Hulk.
Yeah,
She has no
exactly.
life experience at this.
Yeah,
She has never done any of the things that she's supposed to be
She
doing.
may become better later,
And
but at least
I know
have a
it's
starting
fun.
point.
I know it's fun to say, "Oh, look how cool she is," and you know, Ruffalo's getting frustrated, and now he punched her off a cliff. He punched his own cousin off a cliff. Do you know what you just portrayed to the universe?
Yeah.
That like, the male egos will be so sensitive that if their own family member is better than them at something,
They'll punch him
they'll
in the
punch
mouth.
him off a cliff. You know, can't you just be happy for her? If she was that good, why
Yeah.
couldn't you just be happy for her?
Yeah.
And the other, so I'll talk about that in a second. But oh my god, there's so much to talk about this episode. So
The problem with this episode is because it's a lot of talk about, because we wanted it to be good and it wasn't, and it wasn't because it's almost like a lack of care. It's a
and,
lack of-
and I think what makes us so frustrated is it wasn't hard to make a semi-good episode.
yeah.
It wasn't it wasn't like they had the biggest challenge in the world to make She-Hulk interesting, because She-Hulk as a character is just interesting. A lot of people would have just watched this just because it says She-Hulk.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to take like, it's not like Danny Rand, like, you know, Iron Fist, where people are like, I don't even know anything about this character, and now how am I going to believe
Yeah.
in what they're doing? Some kung fu guy who's a white guy who's a billionaire. You know, that's
Yeah.
that's a lot harder to sell to someone. She-Hulk you've already got a proven Hulk, which people are interested in. She-Hulk
Yes,
will
that's
be an
right.
interesting character. But the fact that they made it so uninteresting is an achievement in itself. But I think the key things that we're talking about here is, one is character development. There's hardly any. Two is they had interesting options which they didn't explore. Three is they wanted the main character to be perfect throughout.
Yeah.
She's perfect throughout. She says, "I'm Jennifer Walter. I'm a lawyer. I can control my emotions. I basically saved Bruce. So Bruce then used my blood to save himself and to heal himself. He tried to teach me, but I told him that I know how to do it better than him. I actually was better than him, and then he just accepted it, and that's my origin story. Think about that versus I got shot and Bruce saved me with his own blood, and now I've got this side effect which I'm dealing with. Do I love my cousin for saving me? Would I prefer that he let me die because now I have to live as the She-Hulk?
Yeah.
That's so much more compelling as a story. Like the conflicted emotions that she would have in the original, origin story. Whereas this one, she basically just goes, my cousin's an idiot.
Yeah.
He dropped his blood on me. He then tried to teach me about how to be a Hulk when I already knew better than him. And I'm stronger than him. And I'm faster than him. And then he just eventually listened to
I'm
me.
just better than him at everything.
I'm just better than him at everything. And now he's just listening to me. And that's it.
Which is okay to be better than everything, but come on,
But shouldn't you have to earn it? This is the thing. This is the problem with all Disney projects now. The characters, the same as the Rey problem. This is what I was talking about, the Force Awakened in her. It's the same as the Rey problem. She didn't earn it. She didn't earn it to be better than Bruce at anything. He's literally talking about his whole life.
She never
since
stumbled.
that moment that changed his life. He's been trying, and he still hasn't succeeded.
Yeah.
She succeeded before he even took her to Mexico to look after her. Just by the blood dropping on her, she already could handle that responsibility. Spider-Man had to earn his responsibility. Spider-Man did bad things when he first got his powers. Tony was arrogant when he first got his ability to, create all this tech and everything.
Yeah.
People said you're
arrogant,
rash and arrogant. You're abusing your power.
Your weapons are being used against the states and all that
So,
sort of stuff.
so that journey that superheroes generally go on, where they're learning and developing, she's already done all that, and we haven't been able to see it. So this is difficult.
No, but
for
this
us
is
now.
we say that she's done it all, but the reality is, it's assumed she's so perfect she doesn't need it.
But that's what I'm saying when she's talking about my life experience. Because of my life experience of controlling my emotions, I can handle all this. They should have shown us that. If they had shown us that, I would have had more understanding for the character. The character just saying it doesn't mean anything to me. If someone comes along and says, I'm the best, you have to prove to me you're the best before I suddenly start believing you're the best.
Yeah.
You can't just say it and me believe it. And there's a lot of the problems with this show. The first episode anyway. We'll see how the rest goes. But they've got a message that they want to portray, which is that women are strong. Women go through hard things. There's nothing wrong with putting that message there. But like I said in the full commentary, the message is starting to come before the story. They're starting to put. They've got the message in their mind.
There's no story.
They've got a story, but it's a
What
rush
story? What is the story in the first episode?
The story is just an origin, isn't it? Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it's not even-
the spaceship
but
came
it's-
in the way. We dropped our blood on each other. I'm the She-Hulk now, and
That's
and I've done all my learning because I'm a woman. But the thing is, if you had shown me her going through some hardship, just, rather than that one man in the office who was being mean to her and demeaning her friend who was a paralegal, rather than that one person, you could have spent an episode telling us, that she's a lawyer, that she's in the middle of a court case, where her education was, generally building the world around her in her office and saying like, look, this is how the men are towards her, it's difficult for her. That sort of stuff. Then I would have been more accepting of her just saying, well, I've been through it all, so I can, transfer at will from She-Hulk to human. So that's the one thing. I think they're putting the message before the story, and the writers have probably been told, we want to portray this about our characters, and the story is this.
I think the writers are only capable of writing those things. I don't think they're really capable of writing anything else.
It's just like the
It's just
Batwoman thing,
really,
isn't it? It's just
oh god, yeah, it's
let's-
awful.
I'm interested to ask you what you thought about the acting.
Okay. What I thought about the acting, the actress who plays She-Hulk is not a bad actress. She's not a bad actress.
What's her name? Let's get her name up. Tatiana something,
Is
isn't
it?
it?
No, I don't, well, whatever. She's not a bad actress. I think she could be a really good actress, actually. But there's something, there's something about the animation as well that I don't like.
Let's just focus on the acting
but
first.
But the acting,
Tatiana Maslany.
right? I think she's quite a good actress. The actress, the person who is acting, the person who is acting as her friend, playing Ditzy basically, playing Ditzy but somehow mega intelligent or mega whatever. I thought that was really. What can you do with a role like that? What can you do with a role like that? The only actor, the only person,
for less than a minute, wasn't
yeah,
she,
yeah,
that lady?
the only person really, the only other person that was, I would say, is worth even considering is Mark Ruffalo, who's a great actor anyway. I thought he was all right.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying because he's a man. I just thought he was all right. I think it's okay. I think he was limited. He was limited in some respects. He was limited. Can you imagine if they had made that a bit more emotional? I mean, the guy is a brilliant actor. You look at his, he's generally a brilliant actor who is capable of showing really difficult emotions and dealing with difficult things. And they had the opportunity to do a little bit. I'm not saying they got to try to win an Oscar in the first episode, but even if they gave it 30, 40 seconds of trying to do something, it would have elevated the whole thing. But they didn't.
I'll be honest. I think the acting was fine, and I think now that you've said it, I do agree that they did not explore the talent of the actors as well as they could.
Yeah, we're not interested. I don't think.
I think even if it's just her pulling him out of a car, there's just certain things that they could have done where they used the actors better.
This thing we started at the beginning, where like 28 minutes out of the 37 is the blooming that show itself. If they had just spent a little bit more time on some of these, make it slower pace, but like pulling him out of the car, that struggle, that desire to save your loved one or to save a family member. It doesn't take a lot of effort.
They could have done the bog standard thing where the car was on fire and she had to pull him out of a vehicle on fire.
Yeah.
That would have been so easy to do, and it would have made me feel a little bit more about it.
Yeah, but they didn't do.
There would have been a sense of urgency.
Just like
now that we know that their ship had nothing to do with them, wasn't even attacking them. There was no sense of urgency to get him out of the car.
I'm sorry to go back to the UFO, but
we're gonna keep
the
talking about
UFO.
this.
It was a UFO. It was an unidentified flying object. And I don't care what anybody says, you don't go through the whole episode and not even talk about it.
They did. I'm telling you, they talked about it in one line. That means everything.
That is not talking about it. How, for instance, her best mate, there would have been some element of, you can deal with the UFO, you can deal with her. You can do, how can it not form anything in the entire episode?
It's just a bit crazy, isn't it?
It's mad. It's mad.
Especially the fact that she didn't bring it up.
Yeah.
I thought the acting was fine. I thought, the actors probably did as best as they could have done. Obviously, for the most part, they were, animations. So a lot of it was voice acting.
I think Disney have fallen into a trap. In Kenobi, Ewan McGregor, who is a great actor too, couldn't really do much with that other than what he did.
It's terrible writing. It's the writing that's bad, and writing hinders the actors.
And here the writing's even poorer. And it was pretty bad on Kenobi.
I wonder what they cut out of it, because the story is so rushed. I almost feel like there's nothing they cut out. Do you know what I mean? The story is so rushed. It's like I don't feel like.
Oh, you're saying it's a 28-minute film because they made it in 28 minutes?
I think it's 28 minutes of film. I think the whole thing. I don't think they have anything they cut out, because imagine the fact that they had to cut worse stuff out of this episode.
Oh God, yeah. Can you imagine that?
I can't think of something that she would have said.
The stuff on the cutting floor is so bad.
The stuff that they cut out that must have been so ludicrous. The lines that were written that they felt would need to be cut out of the show must have been so ridiculous.
Do you think they had ghostwriters?
Going,
do you think
we're never going to watch Disney films again, or Disney
one of the things, yeah, one of the things that Disney has done is actually I've seen photographs and things with it's a female writing team, isn't it? Do you think they've actually got ghostwriters who are probably all men, and they don't want to sort of, they don't want anybody
That's
to
not
know?
what it is. I'm sure they've got a diverse range of writers, but I think.
Oh, I don't think
I think
so.
the point is that in this episode, it seemed like the message that was given the writers to portray to the audience was, or the overarching theme of the show of female empowerment and things seems to dominate above the story
But
and
it
the
wasn't
writing.
really much about feeling empowerment in this particular show, apart from a
It
couple
was
of
to
things.
show. It was to show that she was a strong,
It's going to
independent
go that
woman.
way. You can see it's driving itself that way. But
It also
not
just goes
really.
against the character that they portray, because in the first scene, she's a nervous lawyer. And now she's saying, I'm so strong that I can just bear all the responsibility of She-Hulk. So, this is the thing. Like, there's so many contradictions of what's done here and there. I'm not mad at the show. I think we've talked a lot about how bad it is. So I think some of the good things are, I felt the acting was fine. I don't think the actors did like a terrible job. I'm not going to sit here and say that I thought she couldn't show emotion or anything like that. I thought Ruffalo did fine as well. The other actors that were in that episode, they had very little to do other than just be in shock and awe when she turns into She-Hulk. And then at the end, we obviously got Jamila Al-Jamil as Titania, who comes in for 5 seconds and gets punched in the gut, and that's it. But so I don't think the acting I didn't have.
that's
a problem
another thing
with.
that upset me, actually.
What?
Because in the whole film, it's like, or the whole first episode, it's almost like there's the Avengers who saved the universe, and that's it. There's no view of superheroes or supervillains in this episode that exist among
That's what she
their
is.
people.
That's what Jamila Al-Jamil's
but-
character is.
Yeah, but how did she suddenly become? What did it out of the blue? She suddenly becomes like a supervillain.
Yeah, but you can't do 2 origin stories.
No,
in
but
episode,
there could
can
have
you?
been some element.
Remember, they
of
haven't got an hour. They haven't given us an hour.
Yeah.
They've got an hour.
They had a few minutes to set.
They've got whatever they want
instead
to
of
because it's
talking
online
about
streaming.
instead of talking about the sexual proclivities of Captain America, they could have talked about the type of world that they're in.
Yeah.
They could have
Yeah,
just talked
absolutely.
about the type of world they're in.
Absolutely. I'm sure they could have put in a line where Ruffalo says, there are people out there who are going to cause problems for you who have superpowers. Rather than just, people will not like you because you're a monster, because you're a Hulk.
No, but even before they should become She-Hulk, they could have talked about the world they're in.
That's
in.
what I said, that they need a world building episode, or
Yeah.
part of the episode to be world building. They don't need to do the whole origin story in one episode. But it seems like what they want to go for ultimately is they just have an idea of a show in their mind. Some writer somewhere, some director somewhere said, I like She-Hulk, I like the idea of Attorney at Law, let's quickly get over the superhero thing, and then we can start doing episodes where she's a lawyer and a Hulk. And that's probably what they want to
Do
do.
you realise that there's actually a flaw in the first episode that we're going to be laughing at throughout the following episodes?
What's that?
Right at the end, she decides to save her shoes and
I
then change.
talked about that in the full commentary.
And how much do you want to bet every time she turns to the heel, she doesn't have to think about her shoes, and yet they suddenly reappear.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, but listen,
That
you can't
doesn't
just
matter.
have a particular
I've already given her,
leeway to
leeway.
just be
I've given her leeway with her clothes. I've given her leeway
Look,
with her
it's-
clothes.
it's-
So all that heel stuff, I know they're doing all the stupid stuff. That doesn't-
Fantastic Four, the Fantastic Four, the first Fantastic Four film, where Sue Storm becomes invisible for the first time, but suddenly reappears, and she doesn't. At least there's some element of consequence. You've got to have some.
What are you going to do? You're going to say that you want women to...
No.
She had to be naked on
No,
screen?
no, I'm saying that yes, the clothes fine, not a problem with the clothes, but if you've decided in the first episode the shoes don't survive, every time
That's not even an issue. to
you
me.
should have a spare pair of shoes all the time.
That's such a minor
Or-
issue.
Yeah, but they could make a joke out of it. They could be a running theme of
That
joke.
doesn't matter to me. That's such a small thing that we can give leeway for.
Yeah, but I'm
and there's so
looking,
much
for, I'm
more
looking
to...
for strands of hope in an episode that I found incredibly boring.
I'll tell you what, that wouldn't even be funny even if you watched it. Her crushing her shoes, you wouldn't have even laughed.
Her
You would have
pair of
hated this.
shoes.
I know you would have hated this episode so much, that even if that all that stuff that you talked about just happened, you still would have been like, this is a bloody rubbish episode.
It was.
Yeah,
I honestly.
I'm telling you that
There's
all
not
this
many
stuff,
redeeming features.
all
in
the
the
stuff
first
about
episode.
her clothes aren't ripping correctly.
No, but I'd have no
or
problem with
she's
that.
not, there's nothing funny like she gets big and then her shoes crumble underneath her. All that stuff wouldn't have made any difference to you, and to be honest, it shouldn't make any difference because that's such a small thing in the context of the fact that they're not building the characters properly. There's no obvious relationship between her and Ruffalo,
But
or
there's no
deep relationship
story. There's no
between their
story.
family. Their story isn't there. I mean, they've got a series to build a story if they want to, but it would be nice.
But when
if
is
they
it going to
had-
start?
It would be nice
Hasn't
if they.
started in the first
It would be
episode.
nice if they had given us some indication of where it was going. The origin story is not that compelling. It's very incidental about how she becomes She-Hulk. It's very incidental about the fact that she just happens to be able to deal with all of the responsibilities of being She-Hulk. Because a lot of what she says as justification of dealing with those responsibilities, of that power, is just the fact that she's a woman, which means that half of the population of Earth would be able to deal with this responsibility. So there's nothing special about her. In the weirdest way, the most special thing about her is that she has the same attribute as more than half the population of the globe. So if only she had something that she'd been through that we could use to explain the fact that she can bear this responsibility more than the fact that,
That
it's her
requires
gender.
thinking.
No, but this is not something that requires thinking. This is something that
To write that
requires
type of stuff, you've
writers
got to-
sit for 10 minutes and go, what's wrong with what we've written, guys? Is anyone willing to be the person who tears our script apart rather than us all patting each other on the back and saying, well done, we've done a first good episode? Someone just sit and say, does this actually make sense, what we're saying? Have we actually built these characters? Are the audience going to connect with these characters if they just say, because I'm a woman I can do this, or because I'm a Hulk I can just say this? How about you give the audience a reason to connect with these
Yeah, but
characters?
in the United States, television programs tend to be the big difference in the States and the UK is in the UK, maybe not so much now, but certainly in the past, individuals wrote the scripts. It wasn't like a massive writing thing. You wouldn't have 20 writers trying to put together an episode of EastEnders or any series. Okay, in America, all the series are written by teams of people.
It feels like that.
Yep. And one of the benefits that the Americans normally say about having the team is that the stuff gets torn apart and brought again properly. Here, they have a team
There's no script doctor.
that doesn't. Either they're so angry with people who dare to say that they're wrong that those people then are fearful of saying anything that might be critical, or they just haven't even got a process in place to say, does this make sense?
I think they're all patting each other on the back.
Yeah.
It's just that they're in the weirdest thing, the show that is telling us that a certain culture is wrong has got its own wrong culture, which is why the show's being made this way.
It's saying,
And the show that's saying that something needs to be addressed also needs something addressed.
yes.
So
yes.
we definitely came off the path of what I was talking about there. We were talking about actors. So yes, acting was fine. Animation, I was actually happy with it in this episode. In this episode, I was happy with it because the trailer I thought was going to be terrible, and it seems like they spent a bit of money on this first episode. Whether this animation level stays
But this
at
animation,
this level,
don't you get the impression that the problem I have with, I still feel this about what I've seen, and that is that it's almost like she's had so many injections of Botox, her skin, her features cannot change, so her mouth moves, her eyes open and close. It's like a plastic doll that's been brought to life, but
It
actually
kind of is like
the
that,
features
yeah.
never. And that's not. That is going back to a style of animation that goes back to
it's
what?
pre-Avatar.
Forget about pre-Avatar.
pre-first Avatar.
That's even pre-standard animation where it's all hand-drawn animation.
No, it was not that bad.
I think it was. I
If you
think
look
it was
at
terrible.
her, I think if you
it was
look at
terrible.
obviously like the Hulk, if you look at the Hulk in the episode, that's a character that's been animated through so many movies now. His animation is actually really good, and looking at the way they've animated her She-Hulk character, the main issue that I had was that there's no part of Jennifer Walters' human that is in Jennifer Walters' Hulk.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly. I
when
agree.
you see Ruffalo as a human and you see him as a Hulk, there's some. It's a bit strong to call it resemblance, but there's something about that in Hulk that he turns into that you can
It's almost-
connect.
it's
You
got-
can
yeah,
connect
yeah.
with the human
There's
version of
something
him.
in there.
Whereas-
It's all part Banner.
Whereas the fact that she is isn't she blonde? She's blonde, isn't she?
No, she's not. She's a brunette, I think. I'm pretty sure she's.
Have I just lost my mind?
I think she's a brunette. I'm pretty sure she's a brunette.
But I'm sure watching the episode, I just thought there's no part of her when she's a human that I can connect with when she's a Hulk. It just looks like two completely different
Yeah,
people or
Yeah.
things. I can't believe I thought
They could have been two different actresses, to be honest.
That's what I'm saying. It's yeah, you're right. She's brunette. I don't know why. I thought
I think
she
she's.
was blonde.
It could be two
I've
different.
clearly lost my mind.
Mark Ruffalo is Bruce
40
Banner.
minutes of talking about. How long have
Yeah.
we been talking about? Nearly an hour.
hour.
An hour of talking about She-Hulk is longer than the episode.
No, but you know what?
There's so much to
I
unravel.
I left the episode thinking, oh god, now. But at least it's something like a. No, it's like a rite of passage. You get through the first version, and hopefully the first episode. Hopefully the next one will be fine. Let's see what happens.
That's my
I-
feeling.
I don't-
Let's spend a couple of minutes just saying what our overall impression was, because we've talked about
We'll just
it
give it a rating.
We've
Just
talked
give it
about
a
a lot,
rating.
and I'm tired.
Right. So how would you rate it? How would you rate it?
From a scale of
Food scale. Come on. Let's use a food scale.
from a scale of food
Well-
that is digestible to food that is non-digestible, it was prunes.
You just want to rush to the toilet and it all get release it all.
Yeah, I just want to let it go. I just really want to let it go.
Look, to me, I must admit I do like cake. I must admit I am not a fan. I am not a fan of papaya.
Okay.
Okay. I would eat papaya rather than watch this. I think it was poor. It was really.
You might need to eat papaya to distract yourself from it next time. I don't know, but okay. But yeah, my general feeling was I don't.
I have no
understand-
desire to see it
Don't
the
understand
second
why
time.
they did it this way. It was fine. I can accept it as the first episode of a show. It wasn't like something that made me really, really angry. I just wish they had thought a little bit and perhaps done a few things differently, so that a show that had a lot of potential and has some good characters which they can explore, those characters were done justice. That story was done justice. I felt like they just ignored that for the sake of pushing a message, which I'm sure they'll probably just continue to do for the whole series. That's fine. I'm not going to get angry at every single episode. I hope not anyway. But don't make me angry. You won't like me when I'm angry.
You're going to become the
You won't like me when I'm angry.
Yeah.
I think I'll give it prunes.
Prunes, no. Papaya. Let's hope the next episode is better. I know you should finish, but I'm going to say, I think what Disney does not understand is that people watch their shows and they're willing to forgive everything in the past, and they come to those shows with goodwill, and when these shows don't work, it actually hurts in the sense that
It really does.
you want it
Because you're so attached to the characters.
I don't even know the character though. I had no idea what She-Hulk.
But
I
you know it's a fun character.
No, I didn't know. No, I knew nothing about She-Hulk, and I was willing to say forget the trailers because I didn't like the trailers. I thought they were rubbish, the ones that I saw, that is. But you go to these things and you think, well, you know what? I'm going to give them a second chance. They're going to do okay. I'm going to give you my goodwill. I'm going to sit there and really want to enjoy it. And it peters out after the first blooming 5 seconds. It's like you sit there thinking, what the hell?
You're talking like someone who hasn't seen episode 9 of Star Wars.
Oh God, let's not go there.
Okay, we're going to round off there. So, gosh, it's been nearly an hour. Thanks so much for listening, anyone who is listening. If you have any opinions about She-Hulk episode 1,
Leave them in the comments.
Yeah, and give us some likes because there's no dislikes on YouTube now, so that would be lovely. See you for episode 2. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye bye.